got a trade on day 3 of the 2025 NFL Draft as the Minnesota Vikings are trading for quarterback Sam Howell. So a lot of the conversation this offseason was, how are the Vikings going to attack the backup quarterback position? A lot of us wanted guys like Joe Flacco, Gardner Minshew. Even we heard the possibility of waiting until after the draft to go get a Ryan Tannehill. But the Vikings decided to go in the direction of Sam Howell on this one. So we'll break down the full trade. I'll give you guys my thoughts, and then we'll also talk about who the Vikings took at pick 139, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, edge rusher out of Georgia. So Sam Howell on the first half. Then we'll talk about the Vikings draft pick on the second half of today's show. And also, breaking news here, the Cleveland Browns just selected Shedeur Sanders. There you go. So they took Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. But let's dive back in here to Sam Howell. So the Vikings, they had pick 139, 142 today. And they made the pick at 139, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. And then at pick 142, they were just about to make that selection, but they decided to move back 30 slots. So we'll also have a video coming out on pick number 172 here in the 5th round. But they got Sam Howell for just having to move back 30 picks. We knew the Vikings did not want to obviously sign a quarterback because of the comp pick situation. You knew it was going to come either via trade or just after the NFL draft once that Tuesday deadline cleared. So, listen, this is not a blockbuster trade by any means. This is the Vikings solidifying the backup quarterback spot. But I'll ask you guys this. Grade the trade for me down below in the comments section. How are you feeling about Sam Howell being the new backup quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings? He's still 24 years old. Listen, I'm not saying he's gonna, end up being anything more than just a backup here, but I would call him a quality backup quarterback. He did have a rough showing when he had to come in for the Seattle Seahawks when Geno went down last season. But you guys let me know. Grade the trade for me. A, B, C, D, or F. So this was the final deal here. Now Sam Howell in his career, 62.6% completion percentage, has thrown over 4,100 yards in 3 seasons. He's got 22 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, and immediately when I saw this move, you got a young quarterback who hasn't been good with the Commanders, was not good with the Seahawks. You bring him in to Kevin O'Connell Rehab School, and I think that's what they're trying to, do here. It's just like, hey, we like Brett Rippon. We just need to get another body, and you're only moving down 30 slots. Listen, I like this trade for the Seahawks as well. You're able to move back up 30 selections and just gave up on Sam Howell, and you already had Jalen Milroe. You got Drew Lock. But, Sam Howell, he's an all right quarterback. I think he's just a quality backup and nothing more than that. I will say this makes Vikings preseason games a little more interesting. I would have much rather watched a guy like Sam Howell comparison to a guy like Brett Rippon. But, if we talk about Kevin O'Connell and his tenure with the Minnesota Vikings, think about what he did for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins never looked better under Kevin O'Connell. You think about a guy like Josh Dobbs. He had that little magical run for a couple weeks. Also a guy like Jaron Hall played decent football. Nick Mullins was tossing 300 yards a game with Kevin O'Connell. And then obviously the greatest success story for Kevin O'Connell, big reason why he won Coach of the Year, was because of what he did with Sam Darnold. Now, am I saying he's going to do the same thing with Sam Howell? No. But I will say, Sam Howell stepping in as a backup quarterback, I feel a little more confident in him over a guy like Brett Rippon, considering he's going to have this whole offseason to work with KOC. He's going to be throwing the Jefferson, J.A., T.J. Hawkinson if they need to. So, listen, we'll talk about who the Vikings also drafted at pick number 139 here, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. But before we do so, got to give a massive shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is GameTime. Now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, GameTime makes getting tickets even faster and easier, and prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the start of your event, whether that's a baseball game, whether it's a basketball game. No matter what it is, GameTime is hooking you guys up, and they have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and they actually have this feature where you can get a view from your seat in the app before you even buy, so you know exactly what you'll be looking at. It's awesome. I love it, and Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB, NBA, NHL tickets. Whatever requires buying a ticket, Game Time has you covered. Now, they also have last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, and theater events. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. One more time, terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's show. All right, let's dive into who the Vikings took at pick 139 here. A bit of a shocker. They decided to go to the edge rushing department over defensive tackle. You still had some good running backs on the board, like Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal, guys I was a big fan of. But they decided to go edge rusher out of Georgia. And you start noticing a trend here with who Kwesi's starting to pick. It's all of these big college program guys. Like you got the Ohio State defensive tackle. Yesterday you took a guy out of Maryland, a little different, but round one last year, J.J. McCarthy, national champ. Dallas Turner, Alabama, and now we're sticking on the same path here, taking the edge rusher out of Georgia. Now, last season, he had 19 tackles, 8 TFLs, 3 sacks, and 19 pressures. Now, we actually had a fifth-round grade on him, so the Vikings are getting just about the right value. Our athletic comp for him is Keon White, but not nearly as remotely good as it stands right now. We thought somebody was going to gamble on him, and I guess the Vikings are taking that gamble. Now, he has a lack of production over his career, and he's missed way too many tackles, so that's the negative. But he does offer inside-outside flexibility and will do the dirty work on the defensive line. He's great athletic testing for his position. Now, some more bad on him. He lacks a true feel for the game, doesn't react too fast. Instincts are kind of lacking here. He also had a left foot fracture in 2023, so that's not good. And he also had a speeding violation in 2023 and arrested for failure to appear for a handicap parking violation. And our NFL draft analyst just typed out, bro, who parks in the handicap spot? So a typical Georgia player there. But, hey, this is a pick for the Vikings where you are banking on the traits hitting. Like, you are banking on the Vikings and, Tyrion, Ingram-Dawkins, like, hey, you took him in the 5th round. Maybe this is your edge rusher with Dallas Turner for the future, where he can sit behind Jonathan Grenard, sit behind Andrew Van Ginkel, and kind of just learn, the day in, day out lifestyle of the NFL. And I do like the Vikings with, 5th round pick. You're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall, hoping it sticks. But specifically at the edge rusher position, think about the veterans the Vikings have in that room. Like Grenard and Van Ginkel are great mentors. I mean, Dallas Turner has talked about that. Listen, this is a high upside pick. I would always rather go, especially with where the Vikings are at right now, I would rather go the high upside pick later in the round, considering how stacked this roster is. Like, there are no needs here. And he is a guy where you're banking on the upside. And he also is just 21 years old, turns 22 in June. So he's a young guy. So, listen, I'm a big fan of this move. He's got great bend. He also has an insane tackle for loss to tackle ratio, which is great. He does offer some run support. He had a 9.95 RAS score, ran a 4.86 40 at 6'5", 276 pounds. So if I wanted to go quick summary of who this guy is, freak athlete, needs to work on his technique, but with Brian Flores, Jonathan Grenard in that room with him, hey, I think this is a good pick. I'll give this pick I'll go a solid B on this. I do have a little rule for myself, unless I have to be blown away by a 5th round pick to give it anything more than an A. But for this one, I think it's solid. I think it deserves a B. But man, a couple of moves here for the Minnesota Vikings. Crazy, crazy stuff. But if you guys also want to hit me up on Twitter, that's the handle right there, bottom of your screen, at Pat Sieps. Give me a follow over there. I'll give you guys a follow right back. We appreciate all of you guys for watching. As always, Skol Vikes.